Well, it's my pleasure today to introduce to everyone who's listening Mr. L. Hadj Djitteye. Mr. L. Hadj Djitteye is founder and executive director of Timbuktu Center think tank. He's an international mediator. He's a researcher. He's a Sahel expert. He's a policy analyst. He is a Stanford Fellow for Democracy. He's a Weinstein Jams Fellow. He's an Obama leader. And I should stop here because otherwise we'll just continue with the introduction here. I am honored to have El Hajj here with me. That's how I'll dearly call him. Hajj and I have met at the Weinstein International Foundation retreat and board meetings. And before that, he has also attended a training with the Strauss Institute at Pepperdine University Crusoe School of Law. And I can tell you all that I am not just marveled by what he has already achieved in life, but his vision, his commitment, and rather his zeal for global peace, especially how he thinks, he acts when it comes to international development, international democratic future, and internationalization of peacemaking um, steps that we all need to think about, if not take, for the future of our world. Mr. Jitay, welcome.
Thank you, Professor Sukhsimranjit, for this brilliant introduction. I may say Dr. Sukhsimranjit.
I am honored to have you, and I know you are a man of deep thinking, so let's go right into it. I would like to make sure for everybody that Mr. Jitay, I've asked him to have an organic conversation, so it comes from his heart and his mind. Let's start with your work with the Timbuktu Center for Strategic Studies. Tell us about what was your vision to start this center and where this is going and your involvement with it.
First and foremost, my vision for the Timbuktu Center for Strategic Studies on the Sahel is to empower the next generation of peacemakers across the Sahel region of West Africa, uh, an area in the world which is torn by conflict, violent extremism, and irregular migration.
Tell us a little bit about why are you involved with this work?
Uh, I was born in the Fable Desert city of Timbuktu. Timbuktu is northern region of Mali, which is my country. And the city is landlocked, arid, and poor, but it's a powerhouse when it's come to art, architecture, and literature. So I was born in a family of Arabic scholars. My own family is founding fathers of the Timbuktu region. And why I decided to work, because cultural heritage is very important for me, and traditional mechanism for conflict resolution is one of my mission. And my goal is to use the cultural heritage of Timbuktu and then work with grassroots communities to make peace.
Please tell us a little bit about the work you have done in the region. Which countries are you involved with? I'm assuming is what I've learned is it's not one, it's multiple countries and regions. Tell us,
Uh,
treat us like novices that we don't know the region, and then please explain to us.
Actually, we work in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger. Primarily, our work is research, understanding the root causes of violent extremism, mostly the youth radicalization, why the youth join the violent extremism group, and understand intercommunity conflict. What are and study the conflict sensitivity? What are the root causes that push to community to be in conflict, and also work on the link between conflict and then climate change. As you know, because of the scarcity of water for the farmers, sometimes the herders animals enter in the farms, and this creates conflict between the farmers and the herders in this part of Africa. So our role as a think tank is to discuss with those grassroots farmers, grassroots herders community, understand the conflict, and then discuss with traditional leaders, tribe leaders, community leaders, local authorities, and bring everybody on the table to discuss and mediate among parts in the conflicts.
This is very helpful. If I may have to pick a challenge that you're facing while working in the region, what would that main challenge be? If not one, maybe even a couple of challenges.
One of the main challenges, as you know, as a young peacemaker, is resources. The main challenges is resources because our work depends most of the time to the international aid package. We receive our funding from international organizations, government, foundations, and some particular donors. The second challenge can be the security. As you know, and those are countries where actually there is ongoing civil war, or mostly in my country, in Mali, in my own region, in the Timbuktu region, which is located in northern Mali, there is a conflict between the Malian government and armed groups. And then there is a growing violent extremist organization, which claiming also a caliphate in the region. So the insecurity in is also a second challenge. Yeah.
Let's go to that idea that you
Mm,
just shared the word extremism.
mm.
Here, at least in the United States, many people are worried about the spread of extremism. And the way you are speaking about it is very calming. It's like, okay, I work with some elements who are extremist and we bring healing and peace to it. Take us through this journey. How is it that you work with conflicts that are driven by extreme thoughts, extreme faith, and extreme radicalization, if you may?
What we understand in our research on what push young people, mostly we work mostly with the youth in terms of de-radicalization programs. What we really understand, what push a lot of young people to join terrorist groups in the Sahel region of West Africa is the lack of opportunities and the lack of sharing of natural resources. Most of the time, those young people came to areas where even access to justice is a problem. What I do is I travel to cross-border areas of Burkina Faso, Mali, discussing with community leaders, and then discussing with youth from armed groups, terrorist groups, militia groups, and discuss with them to understand the root causes, why they join. And most of the key findings sometimes help us to address the solution and provide alternative solution to those young people. What is challenging is that when you travel to those areas, it's very risky, it's very dangerous. But with the involvement with local stakeholders, community leaders, because armed groups have, peace agreement with community leaders, so they have peace agreement with other groups, and we as civil society organization, we are allowed to discuss and talk with them.
Do you see a change in the mindsets once you work with them? And I hear that part of the problem is lack of opportunity. How do you create opportunity for so many people? Or what do you do? Does education and training helps you to help people be more aware of the possibilities they have?
Education and training is very helpful. The second part is also we engage like government, the international community, other international development actors to work on projects on, for example, a project that's work on how to transform the conflict into business opportunities for the users, the actors in the conflict. whereby you train former armed groups, militants, or former terrorist group actors to came into a rehabilitation center, and then you provide them skill in business entrepreneurship so that he can go back in his community and start a business and change his life. So we see a lot of changes in the life of a lot of young people in this part of Africa. And this is what we call the process of the DDR, like disarmament, demobilization, and rehabilitation of armed groups. Yeah.
Do you see that as your calling?
I feel like I see that in my calling because since I was in my childhood, I was always someone thinking about solution. I'm a solution driven oriented person. And I was so curious about how I can discuss with different people, different communities, and engage in dialogue with them. And when I grew up, I understand my calling, my mission is to make an impact within my grassroots communities. At the beginning, my vision was just my small city, Timbuktu, which is a small city. And when the conflict started in 2012, and then the conflicts, collapsed in the Sahel region of West Africa, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, I expand my reach to all those regions so that I can bring my knowledge as a grassroots peacemakers to do what I'm doing now.
Haj, feel a lot of contentment and calmness in your voice, and I've seen that before in person. What's the source of that
But
calmness?
I feel like it's natural. Traditionally, where I come from, there is what we call being humble, have empathy, and the respect of others. So in everything you do, you should take into consideration those core values. It's not that I cannot shout. I'm not a shy person, but traditionally, grassroots level, I was educated in those manner. And I think in my work as a peacemaker, as a peace builder, this is very helpful because when I'm in the room in terms of mediation, I'm able to be humble no matter what my status in is, no matter my achievement. I can be able to be humble to listen parties in the conflict and make myself someone who can bring on the tables hope. Yeah.
I think you're being humble right now while speaking about humbleness, which is it's not just your humbleness in a mediation, but also your presence and your wisdom, and perhaps the givings you have done to so many men and women in the region already that have benefited from your nonviolent communication techniques and peacefulness and understanding of creation of opportunities. And not just creation of opportunities, but awareness to the people that there is other projects, works that they can take upon to help the world around them. Let's focus on, I know you are also a writer and you are, in terms of scholarship, you are committed to contributing to the world of peacemaking. Tell us what you're writing or what you have written that you're proud of.
Oh, yeah. In 2012, when Islamist militants linked to Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula occupied my homeland, Timbuktu, and then the rebel groups also occupied my city. At that time in 2012, most of my generation, my friends, left my homeland and find themselves in exile in their own homeland. So that time I decided to take the decision of my life to stay in Timbuktu and start working on an idea which is called using the cultural heritage of Timbuktu as a catalyst for lasting peace and transforming violent extremism. The idea was starting through a blog whereby day by day I was just explaining, the daily life of the population of Timbuktu. That was something I'm very humble and I'm very proud of. And that blog was, I feel like, the trigger of my career as a peacemaker because it's give a window for the international readers to read someone living in Timbuktu who can write something about the conflict in the middle of nowhere. Because as you know, Timbuktu is some place most of people feel like is imaginary, but they are able to see atrocities and see someone bringing a new lens in the conversation, which is not just the violent side, but how we can use our own cultural heritage for lasting peace. And the second thing is actually I'm doing also a lot of projects. Like I work on a lot of projects. When I travel for my research mission, I always write on my think tanks, the Timbuktu paper. I try to work on projects like I have written the golden age of Timbuktu. I have recently wrote an article about violent extremism in the Sahel. I'm very proud of because this really explained my day-to-day work and how I travel from one community to another one and my exposure to dangers. Because as you know, I'm a father of two, I'm a husband, and it's not about me. Before, when I talk about the next generation, I just see myself. But today, when I talk about empowering the next generation, I see my children. In the eyes of my children, I can also reach the generation coming after them. And this make me proud that those writing and the future academic projects will help a new generation, not only from the Sahel region of West Africa, but everywhere in the world to understand, how you can translate a mission, a calling into a vital action that can make change into the life of communities. So,
I appreciate you opening up and sharing about the fears
mhm.
that you carry while working with groups that can be dangerous, including dangerous to your life. And we appreciate, I'm sure me and all the mediators and conflict resolvers and thinkers in the field appreciate the work you're doing, which is not easy. Speaking of which, talk to us a little bit about the power of mediation and the power, I know you will use the word strategies for political stabilization. Because what I'm seeing is part of your work is mediating, but part of your work is changing the system, changing the culture of the region itself, step by step. Are they both connected, Hajj, or are they different? The conflict resolution mediation versus working in grassroots levels to change the culture of the people towards a better future.
Oh, yeah, I feel like they are interconnected. Uh, the more you understand working at grassroots level to change the culture of community, to bring change and to improve the life of those community, you you understand also that it's interconnected. You need also to go to policy level whereby there is a political, system to change also in terms of policies that will be put into place for mediation, for national reconciliation. When I started very young, my humble journey in peace building, it was just focused on, the grassroots level, the community level. But on my way, on my journey, I understand that you can't make peace without democracy, without a solid rule of law, without access to justice. Because even though you are a good, grassroots mediator, if you can make deal, but there is no way that there is no law, no state, no constitution, no policies that can guarantee that those communities or those parties in the conflict will respect. uh, the peace agreement. And that's led me, honestly, I'm someone I can say I'm a nomad grassroots peacemaker because I travel across the globe, as you noted in my bio. I travel across the world to seek for knowledge, to seek for books, to seek for mentors, coach who can help me to understand diverse, you know, diverse field. Like actually, I'm trained in democracy and rule of law, and now I integrate democracy and rule of law in peace building mediation training. I also integrate, leadership and civic engagement in the training because there is what we call positive space and negative space. When you have positive space, that means that you have a good rule of law, you have a good access to justice, you have basic social services. But when we come to negative space, it's all about you have a peace agreement, but there is no infrastructure to maintain, to sustain this space. That means that communities are here, but they don't have access to justice. They don't have access to basic services. The inequality still exists within those communities. And one day the same pace can be the violence again. So that's why actually I try to make like Nexus integrated democracy, rule of law, leadership development, and then peace building so that I can get a full package and help those grassroots communities. And what is really, I can say, what is really challenging as I'm talking to you is like, it's kind of I dedicate my time, my energy, so that I myself find good training, so that when I came back to my community, I can give back to the communities. And that's some things I really love this part of the job because I travel a lot, I participate to a lot of training. And for example, I just finished, the training at Pepperdine and then the Weinstein International Foundation training. And one of my key, you know, message during this training is to get the knowledge, get the capacities, get the books, and then go back within my grassroots communities, design a training so that I can integrate what I learned from the Weinstein International Foundation in terms of mediation, and then mix it with my traditional mechanism, mediation tools to bring to add value to the existing mediation efforts in my area. So,
Wow. Wow. What I'm hearing from you is peace is made through democracy's solid rule of law and access to justice, but also through leadership and peace building practices that are done with commitment, consistency, and discipline. If I may focus one more question on that aspect. You face so many obstacles, right? And now I'm hearing that you have this passion for capacity building, or the need or the value that you've realized you need to have capacity building in civil societies, especially the ones that are under threat from organized crime and extremism. Y- You've already shared some of the approaches you do use to build that capacity, including mentoring young people, including guiding them, including sharing them some other opportunities that they can be part of. How can you help others around the world? Maybe say some listener sitting in another country who's thinking about how can I overcome some of these obstacles to capacity building? What can I do? How can I motivate people to participate in interconnected capacity building? What would be your wisdom on that?
my wisdom is all about, you know, everybody for me should have uh, a vision in terms of when it's come to mediation, peace building, uh, trust in the process. You should also trust in the process of that vision, and then third, a discipline to pursue it. So if as mediator, as peacemaker, we have a vision for not just grassroots or local, global peace or global mediation capacity building. Sometimes I think global leaders, experts should go outside of their box and then try to identify in poor countries, underdeveloped countries, conflicts, countries where there is conflicts can be even traveling, then meeting the civil society organization, and then sharing their experience. And sometimes the acceptance of accepting someone you don't know to be his mentor, someone doing something different from what you do every day in your country. For example, when you talk about United States of America and someone living in Timbuktu or in Burkina Faso or in Panjum in India. So I think it's really important to share this knowledge with that person living in a small village in India or in a small village in Mali that can change or bring hope into the life of millions of grassroots communities. And I think this is something I can share with them to add. Yeah.
Amazing. Vision, trust the process, global peace,
Mhm.
involvement of civic society organizations. So, would you say that collaboration and collaborating with different organizations is a key skill
Mhm.
and need to be able to bring change?
Yeah, because there is an intersection between what you do and what I do. But if we are on the same table, like you can bring your knowledge from India, I can bring my knowledge from Mali, you can bring your knowledge from your experience from Uganda, from Kenya, from Brazil, you have been. I can bring all my knowledge from all those countries and civil society organizations I collaborate, I work with. And this add value to what we do. And during the brainstorming in terms of designing peace building approach or mediation approach. So I feel like every piece of information, every piece of knowledge, no matter where it's come from grassroots level to local level to global level to international organization level like the United Nations, peacekeeping level and others, those is very helpful to have, actually I can't say just sustainable peace, but a healthy peace. Because you can even have a sustainable peace, which is not healthy. People are not happy. But
Mhm.
actually, I feel more about healthy peace. Healthy peace means that there was a conflict or there was problem, it was solved, and people are happy. Because at the end of the day, as a mediator or a peacemaker, you should leave the room, leave people with a smile in their face and the hope inside their hearts, their
Mhm.
heart. Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
This is this is deep. I appreciate your comments, and maybe you've already answered this, but I need to ask you, what advice would you have for young professionals aspiring to do international development or international conflict resolution work?
uh, my main advice, I see everything in this tree. Uh, First, as aspirant international development practitioner or mediators or peacemaker must have first and foremost a vision. Second, they should trust in the process. And third, they should have the discipline to pursue it. And my last advice, I think I learned this during my training in Pepperdine. International development, peace, and mediation in all those sectors, your main role is to bring hope, is to improve the life of some people or some parties in a conflict which have difficulties. So I feel like if you are in international development or peacemaking business or mediation business, before you enter to the room, I really value the inner peace side of the mediator or the international development actor or practitioner, because you should, even you as a human being should be peace within yourself and then be in the room. So, and once you are in the room, I feel like listening is one of the biggest quality a mediator, a peacemaker, or even a practitioner in international development should have. And compassion, empathy, and the leadership to understand that you are here to improve the life of those in need. Yeah.
I have truly enjoyed listening to you today. I really think, Mr. Jite, that what you're doing is not just meaningful and not just impactful, but it is such needed work. And I truly hope an interview like this will encourage, motivate some of our young thought leaders around the world to pick up some of the work you're doing and do it in their communities. I'm humbled to be in your presence. I've had the chance to call myself to be your teacher in a room, but I've learned a lot from you just by the way you are. I thank you one more time for your time today, for all you're doing. And I feel like this may not be the only interview I'll do of you, but for the moment, I thank you, Mr. L. Hadj Djitteye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sukhsimranjit. I know that you know a lot of young professionals across the globe to give me this opportunity to be part of your podcast journey, which is a journey that I would like to be part of and bring and add value to this, because I think it's needed. Our world is collapsing. There is conflict everywhere. All the time we say never again, but the same happened. And that's why I insist in thoughtful leadership based on the enlightenment of the mind, leaders that will not just judge people by the color of their skin, their ethnic group, or their faith, but that can judge people as a human being and that can see the best in every human being on earth. So I think this mission you give yourself is my mission, and I would like to be part of this mission to empower the world, because it's not
Absolutely.
only about us. I will always say it's
Yeah.
about the next generation, and let's
Yeah.
be the one to make this world a